In the heart of Russia's unforgiving Ural Mountains lies a place shrouded in fear and mystery. A place where the freezing winds whisper a story of unexplained terror. It is known today as Dyatlov Pass. 9 experienced hikers and skiers, an experienced mountaineer. They began their ascent up a slope of a mountain named Kholat Syakhl, which translates to Dead Mountain. A worsening snowstorm and decreasing visibility forced them to deviate from their planned route. Instead of finding a more sheltered area they made for 6 days, they scoured the vast, empty wilderness. 4 of the hikers were found dead near the tent, 2 men and 2 women. All 5 had sustained serious injuries, including severe skull fractures. But astonishingly, they were still alive when the injuries were inflicted. What caused these wounds? Had the group been attacked by a wild animal, or perhaps an avalanche? These questions led investigators down various paths, each more perplexing than the last. All 4 had cuts on their clothing, and their faces were strangely swollen. One of the women was found with her ribs broken, suggesting a violent struggle. Medical examiners concluded that they died from a combination of hypothermia and a physical blow. But it was the discovery of the remaining 5 bodies a few days later that truly deepened the mystery. On February 26th, a pilot spotted something strange from the air on the slope of Dead Mountain. The search party on the ground moved towards the location, and what they found was not a camp, but the beginning of a terrifying and illogical puzzle. They found the hiker's tent, half buried in snow, but what was truly shocking was the way they had left it. It had been sliced open violently from the inside, a decision that had the group panicked, causing them to harm themselves. Did they flee the tent only to succumb to the freezing temperatures? Or was there something more sinister at play? A force beyond their understanding. Something that lurked in the shadows of the Ural Mountains. Something that whispered to them in the howling winds, urging them towards their doom. Has baffled experts for decades. They chose to set up their camp on the exposed, open slope of the mountain. It was a strange choice for a group with their level of experience, but perhaps they were simply too tired to go on. The group consisted of 7 men and 2 women, all of whom were certified Grade 2 hikers with skiing experience. Their goal was to reach Otorten, a mountain whose name, in the local Mansi language, ominously means, "Don't go there." The initial days of their trek were filled with camaraderie and high spirits, all documented through diary entries and photographs they took along the way. Their own pictures show them smiling, laughing, and working together, completely unaware of the horror that awaited them. All students from the Ural Polytechnical Institute embarked on an expedition to conquer these mountains. They ate their meal and prepared for the cold night. From one of the last photos recovered, we see them setting up their tent in the deep snow, the mood appearing calm and routine. This was the last time they would ever be seen alive. They were scheduled to send a telegram from their destination on February 12th. When that day came and went with no message, their families began to worry. At first, the delay was dismissed. A seasoned group like theirs could easily be held up by bad weather. But as the days turned into weeks, a dreadful silence hung over their absence. They were young, strong, and expertly skilled for the harsh conditions. They had no idea they were hiking towards a fate so bizarre and terrifying, it would become one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. In the winter of 1959, their leader was 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov. On February 1st, that evening, finally. On February 20th, a volunteer search party was sent out. As the investigators pulled the tent away from the snow, they discovered even more disturbing evidence: human bodies. They were found far from the original campsite, some lying next to a frozen river. A theory emerged, a terrifying theory that pointed to a new and unknown phenomenon in the icy wilderness. Was this a case of mass hysteria? This is our channel. If you want to see more videos like this, stay tuned. In February 1959, 9 experienced Russian hikers set out to explore the remote wilderness of the Ural Mountains. But what began as an exciting adventure soon turned into one of Russia's most chilling unsolved mysteries. What's really creepy is that all of their belongings were still inside the tent. Their warm clothes, their boots, even their survival gear. And there were no footprints in the snow other than their own. The only clue was the slashed tent and the footprints leading away from it. The footprints found outside the tent showed that the 9 hikers had fled in a state of panic. Some were only wearing socks, while others were barefoot. What do you think happened to these poor hikers? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to hear more terrifying tales of mystery and suspense, stay tuned for more content. Both men were stripped down to their underwear, and their hands were badly burned. The branches of the pine tree had also been broken, suggesting that whoever had climbed it had done so to get a better view of the tent, or perhaps to try and escape whatever was on the ground. A little further up the slope, searchers found 3 more bodies, including that of Igor Dyatlov. They seemed to have been trying to crawl back to the camp, but froze to death in poses that suggested they were exhausted. They ran into the deep snow and brutal -30°C weather. No one knows what exactly happened inside that tent, but whatever it was, it terrified the hikers into abandoning their camp and fleeing into the snowy wilderness. It all started when a local search party discovered the hikers' tent slashed from the inside. There were no signs of a struggle. No one had been robbed. Nothing had been stolen. Following the trail, searchers soon found the first 2 bodies under a large pine tree. They were identified as Yuri Krivonishenko and Yuri Doroshenko. These first 5 deaths were officially attributed to hypothermia, but the real mystery was still buried under the snow. It took 2 more months for the remaining 4 hikers to be found. They were discovered in a ravine, under 4 meters of snow, and their injuries were horrifying. One had a severely fractured skull. Another had major chest fractures. The force required to cause such damage was compared to being hit by a car. Most disturbingly, one of the women, Ludmila Dubinina, was missing her tongue, eyes, and parts of her lips. To this day, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of Russia's most chilling, unsolved mysteries. In February 1959, 9 experienced Russian hikers set off into the Ural Mountains. Despite being well prepared for their journey, there were no external wounds on their bodies. What could have caused such immense trauma? What could explain the even more bizarre findings? Some of the hikers' clothing was found to be highly radioactive. This makes the Dyatlov Pass incident one of Russia's most chilling unsolved mysteries. Is that all of these theories fail to adequately explain what happened to the 9 hikers. Why did they flee their camp in the middle of the night? Why did they take off their clothes and shoes? And why was some of their clothing found to be radioactive? The official investigation concluded that the hikers had died from a compelling natural force. This vague explanation satisfied no one. By the time the group reached the summit of Katirdish Mountain, they were exhausted and in need of rest. So they decided to make camp at an elevation of over 3,000 feet. But they never should have. Despite these violent internal injuries, theories have ranged from the plausible to the paranormal. Some blame an avalanche, but the evidence at the campsite didn't support it. The news of the tragedy was suppressed, and the families of the victims were threatened and bribed into silence. It wasn't until 1991 that the official secrecy surrounding the Dyatlov Pass incident was lifted. And even then, the true story of what happened to the 9 hikers has still not been uncovered. Others suggest infrasound, a low-frequency sound caused by wind patterns that can induce intense panic in humans. More sinister theories point to a secret Soviet weapons test gone wrong, or an attack by the local Mansi people. This was quickly disproven. And of course, there are theories of a Yeti attack or a UFO encounter. What in the days following the discovery of the hikers' bodies, Soviet authorities worked quickly to cover up the incident. All we know for certain is that on February 2nd, 1959, 9 experienced hikers set out to explore the remote wilderness of the Ural Mountains. And somewhere in the desolate expanse of Dyatlov Pass, they met their demise. They were forced to flee their camp in terror, to run through the freezing cold, half naked, to their deaths. But whatever it was that terrified them so much, it remains unknown. Thanks for watching.